So once again, the question of what do we do is always something that's kind of uppermost in people's minds. And obviously there's a lot of things we do, but very often what we do will be conditioned by who we are. There's that expression that who we are speaks so loudly that people really can't even hear what it is that we're saying. So as someone who finds value in the ageless wisdom, I think the number one thing that we always have to come back to is this idea of the unity of all life. It's an idea, and it can seem to be very abstract and something that is unactionable. But the deeper we find ourselves actually becoming involved in that, the deeper our understanding becomes of this central fact of being. Really, it's something that opens up capacities within us. I think this was the idea that HPB and others have tried to impress in different ways, that as we find ourselves actually deepening our involvement, and the examples given are often of the relationships that we have. To the extent that we have a friend, that's a very deep relationship. But when there's like the element of love involved in that, we start to really know, and we start to be able to become effective, even in healing. It's something that's required, this sense of oneness. And that is, action goes beyond just feeding the hungry. That's a valuable action. But there are deeper aspects to this that we discover as we actually commit to deepening in our understanding of ourselves.
Okay, we also, because this is a dawning of a golden hour, hopefully, as you mentioned, someone asked the question about educating our children in theosophy. How do we do it? Is there something occurring internationally about bringing children into the theosophical ideas? And are there even schools that might bring these ideas forward?
I know for myself, I always find myself coming back to, Albert Schweitzer was a great humanitarian. He was a Nobel Prize winner. And he was also known for his work in service to others. And he was asked, what is the best method of teaching? He was actually asked, is example the best way to communicate, to teach? And his response was, example is not the best way to teach. It is the only way to teach. And so I think, just the idea of passing on concepts to others is very limited. And, churches, temples, politicians, they all do that very well. They pass on ideas, they pass on beliefs, and assist in further deepening our conditioning. I do believe that part of the point of this whole theosophical movement, or any movement that claims to be genuinely spiritually oriented, is to try to create some sort of experience of actual freedom from conditioning. So in our relationship with children, probably the best way that we communicate is as parents, or as people who fall within the sphere of other children. They're looking at us. They're always watching. Children have never been very good at doing what we say, but they've always been good at imitating our examples. So the words are meaningful, but the life we live is much more meaningful. of course, with what we're doing in Adyar and even elsewhere in the world, we have a variety of different situations for children. We have a social welfare center for the smallest kids. We have a school that has been operating for those who previously were not receiving any education whatsoever, that Colonel Alcott founded, and that's been around for 126 years now, completely free. We also have a new school, which we started in the last year and a half, that's focused on this kind of unconditioned approach, not non-competitive, non-punitive approach to education. All of these things are experiments, and we will try to see how they work and always try to think in terms of how we can make it better.
Okay, and I'm also aware of the school in the Philippines.
Yeah, of course. The Golden Link School. There are a number of schools in the Philippines.
Right, right. If we know what is the ideal to be our ruling passion, but we get caught in all of life's turmoil. How do we pull ourselves out of that life turmoil and choose our passion to be what we know we would want it to be?
Yeah. Well, I think in some ways it might be unfortunate, but it's just the fact. We can't pull ourselves out of anything until we actually understand it. So very often, and within the theosophical world, I run into it a lot, of people who are looking to pull themselves out of something by escaping to something else. And that's a phase perhaps, but really we have to grow where we are planted. Very often it's the most difficult situations that bring out the deepest things within us. And so the ageless wisdom is present everywhere. As you're very aware, Betty, you were president of the American section, and you know that there has always been a program of active giving of books and lessons and things like that within the prison system. And in this most negative of environments, you have people who have found something in this ageless wisdom and actually been able to cultivate it in the worst possible conditions. So life is the condition that we're born into, and it has certain demands. We talked about these cycles of growth, sickness, decline. All of those things are part of it. So underneath all of that, though, is this constant potential access to a deeper level of our own being. Wherever we are, we can cultivate that. Within the theosophical tradition, we talk about study, meditation, and then service, conscious, compassionate activity as those things which activate it by basically removing the barriers to its natural expression. So this is one of the things that I would think would be a better focus rather than how it is we can get away from what it is that we're experiencing. Now, our conditions, the circumstances change as we change.